Okay, can you on Zoom hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear everything.
Okay, for those of you in the room, we do not have the projector, but you should all have all of the information that Jenny is gonna present in the handout. Everybody got a handout? Yeah? Okay, for those of you online, Jenny is gonna go through the slides and you will have it there. And all of the handouts we will send out in a MailChimp next week, okay?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Jenny Roben, and she is from the Dementia Friends of Washington today to do our presentation. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This is a great turnout. I am a volunteer for Dementia Friends of Washington. So I have been trained to present this information session. I'm not an expert on dementia, but happy to steer you toward resources and chat further if you have additional questions after our 60 minutes here today. And little caveat, I've never done it without the presentation, and I've never done it on Zoom. So you'll have to, if I seem a little discombobulated at times, it's gonna be because I'm just trying to adapt. So bear with me. Just need to make sure, is it possible to move this here?
You bet.
Okay, I can do it. I just want to make sure it's, just so it can kind of stay for the most part in one place.
Keep it down now.
Oh, okay. Slides are not changing. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. So it's a 60-minute information session. It's fairly high level. It's not real medical. It's not clinical. We have there is a lot of information. So I would ask that questions and comments be held until the end. And I would tell you, I am a social worker by trade. So it's really hard for me to not encourage conversation and facilitation, but happy to stay for that at the end. Some of the topics that we'll be discussing is a general overview of dementia. The 5 key messages that Dementia Friends wants you to take away from this time together. We're going to talk about communication tips when interacting with an individual with dementia. Some takeaway action items, and then we'll touch on brain health as well. So Dementia Friends is a global movement. It started in the UK with their Alzheimer's Society. It's made its way to the US, obviously. We're very fortunate here in the state of Washington because it's the University of Washington Memory and Brain Wellness Center that holds the license for Dementia Friends. So there's tons of support, lots of partners, agencies, organizations across the state to help participate in this movement. There's currently the number on the slide is outdated. In July, we hit over 5,000 Dementia Friends in our state, and Dementia Friends refers to somebody who has gone through this presentation. So by the end of this, you will be added to that list of Dementia Friends in our state. The goal of the initiative is really to help raise awareness and reduce stigma around dementia. There is a graphic on the screen as well as in your packet that just kind of highlights what a dementia-friendly community would look like. The idea here, the visual being that individuals with dementia are part of our community. They need to go to religious services, transportation, doctors, anything and everything the rest of us do. And with a little support and with people being in the community being more aware of dementia and how to interact with individuals with dementia, we can foster dementia-friendly communities and help reduce the stigma around it. All right. Let's start with an activity. If you could all think of and share, if you're willing, a word or a phrase, short phrase that comes to mind when you hear the word dementia.
Confusion.
Confusion,
Fear.
fear,
Anger outbursts.
anger, outburst, great,
Humbling.
humbling. Okay, I find this fascinating because the one that typically is first mentioned, and I think is memory. And so it's interesting that you all have gone kind of to that next level where there's, you know, there's more to it than memory loss. Yeah. Any others?
Patience.
Patience.
Lost.
Disconnect.
Disconnect. Would you say in general, these words or phrases are more on the positive side or negative?
All negative.
All,
All negative.
one exception. It is the first time, this is the fourth time I've done this, and I've never had anybody say something, patience, meaning that it requires patience,
Okay.
right? So that's beautiful that that's what came to mind. There's some gold star. So yeah, on the whole, generally, it is more on the negative. So that's highlights the negative stigma that is associated with dementia and memory loss. So that's part of what we're hoping to reframe with the information we share today. All right, so a little bit about dementia overview. Dementia is not a specific disease. It's actually a umbrella term that covers symptoms caused by a variety of diseases. The most common that I'm sure you've all heard of is Alzheimer's disease. That accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. There are others that are a bit less common, dementia with Lewy bodies, frontotemporal, vascular dementia, Parkinson's disease can also have a dementia component. How is dementia diagnosed? Typically, it's by a primary care provider or a specialist, a neurologist, often through a series of assessments and tests. There's, as you probably know, a lot of research going on. There's a blood test that's been approved by the FDA, but it's just a matter of it trickling out into to being available. Is it genetic? That's a question people ask. It's pretty rare for there to be a purely genetic form. There's often multiple risk factors that come into play.
Contagious.
Not really. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the what happens with typical aging and how that can be similar and or different from early signs of dementia. I think we all know that as we age, things start to change. Our hair gets gray, our vision might change, energy might slow down a little bit.
I have a little.
And then from a cognitive standpoint, it's not unusual to maybe get a little, find ourselves more easily distracted, needing more quiet to focus. A lot of changes that come. We could spend the whole hour talking about that probably, that come with typical aging. And so we're going to talk about how that differs from what could be signs of dementia. One important piece on this is that often somebody that is starting to experience cognitive impairment, dementia, don't realize it, can't see it in themselves. So it's especially important for their family, friends, coworkers, just to have, for people to have a general awareness, in the hope that if that person ends up needing some support and guidance, that there are people around them that are able to guide and help them and maybe getting the support that they need. All right. So the first early sign is memory loss that disrupts daily life. So that's typically with aging. You might find that we set our glasses down and forget where they are, but are able to retrace steps and go grab them. Maybe forgetting an appointment, forgetting the date, but then recalling it shortly after. With early sign of dementia, the information is pretty much just gone. It doesn't get recalled, or maybe it's a surprise when they're reminded of the appointment, they're surprised, and instead of oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. It's completely new and seems like new information. Second sign is challenges in planning or solving problems. With typical aging, we might, the example on the slide here is occasionally making errors when balancing a checkbook. That can happen to anyone. But with typical aging, maybe the vision has changed. And so reading 6 and a 9 on the bank statement is not as easy as it used to be. And so there might be a few more errors, really vision related. But with planning and problem solving issues that come with dementia, it could look more like a person maybe not being able to follow a recipe that they've made for decades and practically knew by heart. So the ability to follow steps and organizing that way can start to decline. The third one is difficulty completing familiar tasks at home, at work, or at leisure with hobbies, for example. It could look like go to the same barber every 6 weeks and find themselves not remembering how to get to that location. Just going through a routine familiar, starting to not be able to do that quite as easily. Typical with aging, might forget how to, or I should say, need assistance with a remote, and it could have anything to be some arthritis. It's harder to press the right button. It could be vision, but with dementia, it's more the cognitive piece where we see the changes. The fourth is confusion with time or place. It's not uncommon for people with dementia to lose track of dates, of seasons, not maybe losing a grasp on, okay, I know my birthday's October 1st. I think it just happened, but really it's happening next week. So kind of losing that sense of time, really, not just like what time it is, but months, a couple months away is away, where tomorrow is going to be the next day. It's kind of losing that sense of when, or recent, far out, that type of thing. The fifth one is trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. This can be something, not the typical vision. It's different from macular degeneration or becoming more nearsighted. Those are more typical changes. Glaucoma can happen with aging, not uncommon. But this is more really looking at something, maybe a sign like looking at, for example, a picture and not recognizing that that is this church, where it's a place that they've come to many times, or not. This can impact driving quite a bit, because it can mean, signs that don't necessarily have words on them, like railroad crossing, or different signs that we see that image as a driver and we know what that means. Losing that connection between that image and the meaning behind it, that we kind of just do automatically. New problems with words or speaking or writing, and or writing. Forgetting words and not being able to recall them. Not uncommon with the typical aging process. To forget a word takes you a minute, oh, and then you think of it, maybe a minute later, maybe that evening, but it comes to you. This is having lost certain words altogether. So instead of, calling this my watch, I call it my hand clock, or just come up with words that make sense, or maybe no words at all, but not retaining that word that's been a regular part of their vocabulary. The seventh sign is misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. Kind of overlaps a little bit with the planning and just general forgetfulness. This can be tricky in that it can sometimes lead to the person, fear. Somebody mentioned fear. They are looking for something, they can't find it, and it might create a sense of fear because they think somebody's come into their apartment and taken it. Or maybe it could look more like paranoia. The fear could look like more like paranoia. They worried who somebody was here, and couldn't have been them, that they were sure that they put it where they always do. And so this one can be not just frustrating, but fear-inducing and scary. Yeah. And again, different from typical aging in that we might come in from the grocery store, put some things down, got to get on a phone call, and then go to look for said things, and not where it usually is, but it's because you were distracted, and you can say, okay, I went into the kitchen first, and then I went and hung my coat up, so I'm gonna go check my coat pocket. Being able to problem solve and kind of retrace. Not uncommon with aging. The eighth is decreased judgment or poor judgment. This can look like having to do with, kind of similar to planning, but decision making in terms of meeting a friend for a walk, and it's a blustery day, and the person shows up in summer clothes, just kind of losing that ability to plan and judge. Okay, it's cold outside, it's windy, I'm gonna grab my hat and make sure I have a windbreaker. That type of judgment. That can also be the piece that impacts hygiene. The person might forget to brush their hair. They might not think to brush their teeth. And
Toenails.
Yes,
Hair.
yes, yep. Throw out food in the refrigerator that's moldy. That's judgment. The ninth is a sign of withdrawal from social or work activities, any activities really. The individual, you might notice that they're declining invitations more often, maybe if it's a work environment, not as willing to participate in group projects or take on additional responsibilities. And it could be for different reasons, really. One could be that they're forgetting to show up for church service or for a meeting, or it could be that they have enough awareness about the cognitive change, because of the negative stigma, that they don't want to interact with other people that might notice that they're not themselves, they're more forgetful, they're losing certain abilities. So that can look like retreating a bit. And then the 10th is, Sorry. Once in a while, or not unusual as people get older to be a little more routine oriented and not quite as comfortable, maybe even get irritable if asked to do, or expect to do something outside of the routine. This is more of a the anger, somebody said anger, frustration, and acting out. Maybe somebody that used to be very open and friendly and warm becomes more reserved, or conversely, somebody that was always very buttoned up and reserved becomes more emotional and affectionate. And so really just seeing a shift in personality. So those are the 10 potential early signs and symptoms. The next piece is a YouTube video. Maybe we could send that out since we're not able to watch it. For those of you on Zoom, the link is here. We won't take the time to watch it now, but a short 5-minute video made by Dementia Friends of Minnesota, and it highlights the 5 key messages of our presentation, but they're told by, there's 5 individuals living with dementia that talk about some of their experiences. So it's really, really interesting. And
Is the link right down here at the bottom, right down here?
It's not this, the Alzheimer's.org.
no,
So
no,
it's
that is not,
YouTube,
it's
right?
different, it's different, yeah, yeah. All right, so we'll just go over we'll talk through the 5 messages, key messages. The first is that dementia is not. Okay, dementia is not a normal part of aging. There are many people, majority of people go through old age without experiencing dementia. So I think that's kind of a,
Where are you? Page
oh, sorry,
Page 8.
page 8.
It's
Page 8, page 8. Thank you. The second key message is that dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. So there's a biological component. Dementia is not just about having memory problems that can affect thinking, communication, and the ability to perform everyday tasks. It is possible to have a good quality of life with dementia. This one, to me, the video really highlights that, because the 5 individuals that it features talk about how they all have very positive attitudes. They talk more about what they can do and what they do still enjoy, as opposed to focusing on what they can no longer do. So it's pretty inspiring to hear their stories.
You send the link to us, or can you tell us what that is?
Yes.
We're gonna send them all out in MailChimp. So we put them all out.
Would that video be something you think somebody who is recognizing they have dementia find comfort in, or
I think
informative?
I think so. Yeah.
Will you just say that question for the folks on Zoom?
Oh, she asked if the YouTube video we were just talking about could be comforting for somebody who just recently is realizing that they have some dementia or maybe some cognitive changes. Yeah, I think so. And then the final one, which is, I mean, they're all really important, but this one is super important. There's more to the person than the dementia, and that's really true of, anytime a loved one is diagnosed with a condition or a disease, want to always remember that that's a part of their life experience, but they're still the person that they've always been. Still a valuable part of the community, for sure. All right. The next part of the presentation is the bookcase story, and this is, I think, page 4. No, the slides are lighting up. Page 5. Okay, page 5, thank you. And has anybody seen this before? Because I saw this analogy before I got involved with this. Okay. So the bookcase story is a story to kind of highlight how dementia can work and what it can look like in kind of a specific scenario. So dementia is caused by specific diseases. Those diseases impact different parts of the brain. And depending on what parts of the brain are impacted, it changes what we might see in the person with dementia. It's going to impact feelings, behaviors, like we said, not just memory. And so the bookcase shows kind of different parts of the brain. So the top shelves of the bookcase are more recent memories, facts, and complex thinking skills. The bottom shelves represent emotions, love, happiness. And as dementia progresses, if you imagine the bookcase shaking, it's going to be the books off the top shelf that fall out first, similarly to how typical progression of dementia, it's more recent memories, facts, and complex thinking skills that become compromised or are impacted first, while the books on the bottom shelf, emotions, love, feelings, those remain longer in the person's experience. So to give an example of that, and everybody can be affected differently. This is kind of generalization, but imagine there's a woman, I think it's a 70-year-old woman that has dementia. And so her doesn't remember more recent memories, having harder time with some decision-making, judgment, remembering facts, but still experiences emotions, love, happiness. And as an example, imagine a childhood friend comes to visit her at her home, and the woman walks in, and the woman, I'm going to call her Jane, just to keep it easier. Jane, the woman with dementia, sees her and maybe can't think of her name, maybe doesn't even recognize her features. But if the old friend walks in and says, "Hi, Jane, how are you?" Jane will feel good. Those emotions of love will make her feel comfortable, and they have a nice visit, and then the woman leaves, and Jane may forget that she even had a visitor, but will likely remember those or still be experiencing those feelings, those positive feelings and emotions. Whereas if the woman came to visit, the friend came to visit, and maybe said, "Jane, do you remember when we did this? And do you remember when we did this? And do you remember when we did?" And Jane doesn't remember those things and starts getting anxious and kind of scared and uncomfortable, and the friend leaves. Again, she might not remember the specific details of the conversation or even that she had a visitor, but those feelings will remain with her for a while longer. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about ways to communicate and things to remember when communicating with individuals with dementia, but it's kind of an interesting part of the dementia journey. There's that might be the next date. There's an image of a brain in there, and that's
Page 6.
Page 6,
Yeah.
thank you. That's really just to show, kind of highlight that there is a physical change in the brain. Dementia isn't, has this physical or biological component. That shows the healthy brain versus a advanced. So there's quite a bit of shrinkage that occurs. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is an activity. We talked a little bit about how dementia can impact a person's ability to perform everyday tasks and have memory, judgment, decision-making can all be affected. So this activity, we're gonna pick, I think with, sometimes we do it as a group and then other times it can be done in small groups. I think maybe with the size and the layout, it'd be easier to just do it together. Well, let me explain what we're gonna be doing and then I'll tell you. So we're gonna pick an everyday task. We're all gonna work on the same one, something simple that we probably don't even have to think about. Making a cup of coffee, making a sandwich, brushing your teeth. Does anybody want to pick our task?
Where are my keys?
Where are your keys? So how about getting ready to go out on an errand? Going out on an errand. So we're gonna take a few minutes and let's just do this individually. Take a few minutes to write down, or you can just think about if you were getting ready to go out on an errand, say to the grocery store, what are the steps that you would go through in order to accomplish that? And we'll take about 3 minutes if you want to jot notes or just kind of think, and then we're gonna come back and talk about what we came up with. About 30 more seconds. All right. So going out to the grocery store. If you wanted to speak out, how many steps did you all come up with? Let's see, have
10,
9.
8.
9, 8, 6, 6. Okay, so between 6 and 10, that sounds like, so not too much of a, right? 9, okay, so everybody's within a pretty similar range. Who'd like to share the first step that they wrote down?
Go to the bathroom.
Oh, I forgot that.
Oh, is it?
Make a grocery list.
That's a good one.
That's good.
Make a list.
Make a list,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's good,
Then decide which stores you need to go to get things on.
okay, yeah,
Where are you going?
right, yeah.
So it's not just making a list, it's taking it.
Now take a list.
Yeah.
I always forget that.
All right, how about, can somebody share with us their whole, we won't have time unfortunately to go through everybody's list, but if somebody could read us their whole list.
Okay. Make list for shopping, put on shoes, find a coat or a jacket, find the keys and purse, find my sunglasses, go to the bathroom, lock up the house, which includes shutting windows and checking on the cats, and then putting on the alarm and then getting in the car.
You forgot your phone.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, making sure phone is charged. Yeah, and I have it. Yep.
Yes, yes. How about, so did anybody have anything really different from that, or in addition to, or just different?
Putting on your hearing aids.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
I got
that,
my hearing aid.
you forget.
Yes. I want to check and see if my to-do list, do I have enough, and look at my watch to see if I have the time available to do what I'm supposed to do. Then, do I need a car where I'm living now? If I want the car, I have to call a valet. Check the weather, see. Just
Yeah.
It's gonna be within Horizon House where I live now. Do I have my name tag on? Now what route will I need to follow? Where I wanna go? Or will I need a knapsack? Walking,
Oh, yeah, shopping bag.
Grocery bag, yeah.
Your bags.
Yeah.
have a house key before I go out?
That's a wonder if you get any.
Safe.
Yeah.
Tired.
Great. Thank
Wow.
you all for sharing. So I think you can probably imagine what this is showing us is things that we probably don't put a whole lot of thought into in order to just run out to the grocery store on an errand, really does require planning, judgment, fairly complex, you're not solving a physics equation, but there's some complex thinking skills that need to be called upon to accomplish this task. So, and if we wanted to break it down even further, a few of you mentioned a list, well, you'd have to figure out where the paper, what do you need to make a list? Well, some people do it on their phones now, but you have to go to the drawer where the paper is and get out a piece of paper and then get a pen and then think about the things that you are short on or that you need for whatever it is you're going to be doing and make a complete list so you're getting everything you need. So there's a lot that goes into a task like this. And if one or several parts of a person's cognitive ability is impaired, it becomes a lot harder to accomplish what we think of as a simple simple task. The other piece that this exercise shows is that with a little support, or maybe a lot of support, it doesn't mean someone with dementia can't or shouldn't go on errands or to the grocery store. It might mean that they should, whoever their care partner is, maybe keep a pad of paper and a pen on the kitchen counter all the time. So as soon as they notice something is missing, it gets written down right away. Or maybe somebody comes over and it's gonna go with them to the grocery store and spends a few minutes looking through the cupboards just to, work with them to make sure that they have everything on the list that's needed. And so that's where a little support can really help a person with dementia maintain dignity, maintain a sense of independence. So it's important to keep that in mind. All right, the next piece we're going to talk about is communication. And I'm not, you have a, I'll get the slide up there. I'll go through this. I'm not going to read through every single thing on the list here because you have it in front of you. But it is really important. Communication changes for a person with dementia, as well as the people around them trying to communicate with them. Those changes could look like using the same word over and over, or forgetting a word altogether, like we talked about earlier. Inventing new words for familiar objects. So I mentioned, calling a watch a hand clock. Maybe just saying part of a word, and then whoever they're speaking with has to kind of fill in the blank. Losing train of thought, this, speaking and then just stopping, not remembering, which also can happen with typical aging, but this is a little more abrupt. Reverting to a first or birth language can happen, and then difficulty organizing words. So that could look like, grammar changes. It's not necessarily the subject and the verb. It could be the way something is being described or communicated, the words are out of order, but they're using the words so you know what they're trying to say. This idea of behaviors, in quotes here, somebody mentioned aggression or acting out as one of the changes that can occur with dementia. And oftentimes, if a person with dementia is having a hard time using words to articulate their needs or wants, they might use a physical gesture. So maybe somebody's trying to help them put on a sweater, but their shoulders are sore. So instead of saying, "Oh, I don't want to, that hurts my shoulders," they might throw the sweater on the ground or push the person away a little bit, or just kind of, use a physical, and that can look aggressive and scary, and but it really is most likely just a form of them, maybe out of frustration, trying to communicate something that they aren't able to verbalize. Some communication tips when talking with someone that has dementia or some memory loss. And this is really anybody all the time. Treat the person with dignity and respect. Continue to speak to them. Oftentimes, if say, for example, you're taking someone with dementia, you're at the grocery store, a doctor's appointment, the doctor will just talk to the care partner instead of that individual. So just really making sure you're maintaining eye contact, and be really aware of feelings. This is what we touched on with the bookcase story. If somebody with dementia can sense that you're frustrated, that you're losing your patience or angry, they're going to pick up on that before and for longer than they pick up on the words that you're saying. So for example, there was somebody that has some memory loss and they're asking you the same question over and over because they're forgetting they asked and forgetting the answer. And you answer the question the first time, "Oh, it's today's Sunday." And then as the question continues to get answered, even without meaning, it can happen without meaning. I can say, "It's Sunday, I already told you."
5 times.
Yeah. And the words, that the tone, the feeling is gonna be what they're left with and it can be upsetting, more so than the actual words themselves. Being patient and supportive, mention patience. If someone's having trouble communicating, individual is having a hard time communicating their or needs, remaining patient, offering comfort and reassurance, avoiding criticizing or correcting or arguing. This part is really important as well. Kind of get in their world as opposed to trying to correct them or be right instead of just going along with it. It's more supportive to just go along with what, you know, they are insisting that it's Monday and that there's church that day and they want to go to the church service instead of insisting, you know, trying to prove them wrong. No, it's Sunday and church is today. And, you know, just kind of finding creative ways. There's actually a clinical term called therapeutic fibbing that that is and none of us want to lie to our loved ones, but it can help just be a more supportive way of communicating with someone rather than trying to argue or prove them, make sure that they have the right information. Offering a guess is a good one, although that you kind of have to be careful with that because if the person is struggling to communicate, they may prefer to continue to try to say the word and they might be offended if you jump in with a guess. So really, this is based on your relationship with the person, what you think would be, and you can always say, would you mind if I say what I think you're saying? And if they, you know, they might say no, they want to come up with it themselves or try to communicate on their own, or they might appreciate some assistance here. This 20-second activity, I know it's only 20 seconds. We're not going to do, but the idea here is that it can take a person with 20 seconds to process information. We may think 20 seconds, but if you're having a conversation and you're sitting and waiting for them to speak or process what you shared, 20 seconds can be a long time. So giving people the time, not losing patience is key. Some conversation tip. Again, I read through these, so I won't read through every single one. But eye contact, always a good idea. Really getting to their level. If they're sitting, pull up a chair, get on the floor if you can. And then during the conversation, asking yes and no questions can be helpful. Instead of saying, do you want coffee, tea, or a Diet Coke with your lunch? That can just be confusing and overwhelming. So yes, would you like coffee? Yes. Be as positive as possible. Again, that goes back to the emotion and the feeling part of communication as opposed to just the words themselves. Giving visual clues, pointing to something. Oh, why don't you grab your coat because we're going to be heading out in a few minutes. And then instead of saying things like, do you remember when we did this? And do you remember this person? Or you remember this, don't you? Instead of saying, I remember when we went on this trip and we had so much. And then maybe even trying to describe for them details so they could maybe start to not necessarily remember, but start to visualize that memory along with you. And then using written notes is helpful. Okay, that is the communication. Those are the communication tips. The next slide here, and you have a separate handout. It's 12 actions for a healthier brain at any age. It's a great list. Brain health, healthy brain reduces the risk of dementia. It by no means guarantees that you that a person won't end up with some cognitive impairment. And there's been tons of research and articles that have come out, especially in the last few years. So again, I won't go through this. You probably seen a very similar list or read books with this information. There's a lot out there, but just a reminder that brain health can help reduce risk of dementia. All right, and then the 5 key messages again: dementia is not a normal part of aging. It is caused by a disease. Dementia itself, it's not just about memory. I feel like you all knew that coming in here. Possible to have a good quality of life with dementia, and there's more to the person than the dementia. All right, so as part of this, becoming a dementia friend, we ask that you pick an action item. There's a list in your packet of some suggestions. It's not mandatory, but part of the effort to create dementia-friendly communities is that, well, you took the first step, first of all, by being here, which is huge because awareness hopefully has been raised. But there are some things like volunteering, or maybe if you know somebody that has dementia, it can be hard to have a friend with dementia. Oftentimes friends kind of fade away. So maybe give that person a call or send them a card or just make some kind of contact. There's pretty high commitment items on the list, and then there's some things that are a little bit easier to do. So we just ask that you consider taking one or more action step. All right, and then there's a page with resources on the back, or second to the last page, resources and support. Dementia Friends is the group that I'm a part of through the University of Washington Memory and Brain Wellness Center. The Alzheimer's Association is amazing. If anybody has anybody themselves, a loved one, where you feel like you could benefit from learning more about dementia or need some support, Alzheimer's Association has a wide range of services, from articles to support groups. And one thing, I see this on the news sometimes in a different place, like maybe like an article, they'll say, if you or someone you know has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, call the Alzheimer's. There doesn't need to be a diagnosis in order to take advantage of their services, their information. It could be if you're just curious, if you think somebody, like I said, might be has dementia. It's a really an amazing at any step of the dementia journey. So that is everything that I have to share. I'm happy to stay after if anybody wants to chat. There's a few resources that I